Welcome to another edition of the Jerry Acuff Show, the podcast that focuses on how can you be more successful in business and how can you build success by building relationships and being good at selling and being great at setting and achieving stretch goals. We're really lucky today to have Andrew Lauder with us today. Andrew is the founder of C.I.O, which is a management consulting firm that does some really interesting stuff. I mean, not only do they help firms save money, but they also show companies how to drive revenue. Andrew had a very successful career with large consulting companies and decided to start a unique consulting firm. And as someone who has owned a consulting firm for over 20 years, I'm incredibly impressed by the foundation that he's built with C.I.O. His values, I loved his values: to be honest, to be human, to be purposeful, and to be growing. You build a foundation on those four things, you're probably going to be pretty good. The other thing I loved about studying up on Andrew was his advisors are not called consultants. Now, I have 30 people in my consulting firm, and they're called, vice presidents or executive account directors or senior consultants. And he calls his chief improvement officers. And candidly, any good consultant, that's exactly what they do. And you shouldn't hire a consultant unless you need improving. But if you need improving, great consultants are hard to find. He's a graduate of Texas A&M. He has 2 young children and is married, does some mentoring, and we're really lucky to have him here today. So, Andrew, welcome to the Jerry Acuff Show.
Thank you for having me, Jerry. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really interested in your business model. I mean, having spent my career in, management consulting, and of course, most of our consulting is around commercial excellence. How do you sell more? How do you market better? And so it's very sort of a subset of what, traditionally have been called management consulting. But my very first consulting gig was a general management consulting firm. And it wasn't nearly as innovative as yours. So I'm fascinated to know sort of, how do you differentiate yourself and what made you decide to start this business? And then what do you like about sort of running your own, consulting firm rather than, working for somebody else?
Sure. So let me start with just adding a little bit more about what C.I.O is. As you mentioned, Jerry, our clients refer to us as their chief improvement officers. We're driven to make our clients operate more efficiently, increase their profits, and grow faster. And so that can mean a number of things, but ideally, what our clients really expect from us is we join their executive team, we become one with them, and that allows us to really analyze the entire company frontwards and backwards for opportunities for improvement. It's all really stems from the basis of looking at it from an operational lens. How can we make the company operate more efficiently? How can we help it scale? And utilizing kind of that really substantive approach to really transforming the entire company. We also look at processes. We're very process heavy in understanding what the current state of the company is and where it needs to be going. And so really it goes back to understanding the strategy, what that company wants to achieve, ensuring the processes are there to get them there, ensuring they have the right people to get them there, and then how that technology enables them to do all that. And so tying all those things together is really what I've termed as helping our clients achieve excellent operations execution. And so sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No.
Now, I started C.I.O because I really look at consulting through 2 lenses. One, I absolutely love consulting, the thought of problem solving, learning and getting acquainted with a new company, getting into a new industry, new set of problems, finding those solutions. That really motivates me and drives me. But there's also a lot of things I just looked at the industry as a whole and said there's a lot of things that can be done better. And so as I'm really growing and establishing this company, I literally have a list of things that I'm going down and ticking off and figuring out how do I want to make these better. And some of them range from a better client experience to a better consultant experience. And so that's really what drives me. And, I've been at it now since April 2016, and I've loved absolutely every second of it. You asked me kind of what drove me to do this. I just wanted to find a better way to do it, and as I've grown Louder Co., as I've gotten to know more people, it's just been incredibly rewarding to see all the impacts that have been made this far. The clients that we target, the problems that we target, it's all in the name of taking on fun, impactful projects, and that's what I'm trying to do as part of Louder Co.
Is it, one of the things I talk about with our clients a lot, and I don't know whether it's true in your business or not, though I suspect it is that the margin for error today in business is smaller than it's ever been before. And to me, that's why this notion, and I love to hear you say this, execution excellence is so important. Because if you can have a great product or service, and if somebody out executes you, you're going to lose.
That's exactly
right.
Because
it's hard to differentiate products and services today, harder than it's ever been before, especially as things are changing. And so to me, execution excellence is actually the North Star, isn't it not? Is it not?
It really is, and it's a big difference maker. A lot of companies out there can really just focus on their branding or their marketing, and it's oftentimes lipstick on a pig. And so when you look at the operations, that's really the nuts and bolts. That's what's truly going to differentiate you, how well you execute. From a number of different facets, not just your product or service, but how do you deliver that sound and exceptional customer experience? And so it really hits on what I look at to be kind of that 80% that every company shares with each other. But how looking at best practice processes, the technology, everything we've hit on already. But that really is the key differentiator. If you can be excellent at executing all those things, boy, you're just a well-oiled machine ready to go.
I don't know if you've seen Amy Cuddy's TED Talk, which is the #1 TED Talk anybody's ever watched. And it's about body language, which if you watch it, it's not about body language at all. But her final slide, and it's the last 5 minutes of it, is the most compelling video I've ever seen. I mean, she really talks about human transformation, which, you're talking about organizational transformation. But her final slide, I love, and it says, tiny tweaks create big impact. And it seems to me that my business, which is consulting and commercial excellence, and your business, which is across all kinds of processes in an organization, it's the tiny tweaks that create the big impact. The problem is oftentimes your client can't see the tiny tweaks. Is that how you see it?
That's absolutely right. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned that. A big part of our approach is, we look at, we analyze the problems, we come up with a list of solutions, and then we work with our clients to really determine, are these what we call those quick wins? And I think those align with what you're saying here, those tiny tweaks. And so we put those solutions against a matrix to determine what are those high impact, low effort items that pretend that, a lot of people call low hanging fruit, that we can really drive and make some instant impact, so that everybody kind of sees, okay, we're moving in the right direction now. And that's absolutely it. We have also those longer term initiatives that we help roll up our sleeves and get them done. But those tiny ones really go a long way.
It also true in our business. This is true, and I would assume probably true in yours. You talk about problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, the customer doesn't know they have a problem. Have you found that to be true? That you have to illuminate to them that this is actually problematic, that this is something that you think is working that's probably not working for you, it's working against you, or it could be working better?
Absolutely. And, that's why I also love the moniker Chief Improvement Officer. We're not just there to drive initiatives and make changes, but we also become kind of that right-hand person for the exec team to turn to solve problems. And, one of the things that we'll get to here in a moment are kind of those top 5 areas to focus on for a better year. And I tell people, #1 is really think strategically, pull yourself out of the weeds. And that really is it. If you're really ingrained in the day-to-day, not able to take a look up and really think strategically, those problems that you outlined, that you're just unable to identify those. So yeah, I think looking to us to find those problems before they become, before they come to fruition. There's a lot of value in what we're able to provide there for our clients.
You mentioned your guide that you've developed called 5 Tactics to Make Your Business Better in 2018.
Yep.
Can I ask you to talk about each one of those? I mean, I read those and just thought, wow. I mean, there are 5 things that are probably a total of 25 words, but man, they are packed with wisdom.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. So I'll go down all 5. Number 1, stop putting out fires and look up. Number 2, get to know your processes. Number 3, make a big people decision. 4, make your customers happier. 5, grade and upgrade your technology. And so I can certainly dig deeper into those.
No, yeah, I'd love to. So what do you mean about is the putting out fires? Is that thinking more strategically, or
it really
is
is
that working on the business and not in the business? Or
that's exactly right. There's so many times I've met with leaders, even director level, manager level people that are really just so entrenched in the day to day and putting out fires that they don't have an opportunity really to stand up and take account for where they're going strategically. If they're still marching toward that vision, if that vision really is where they need to be going. And so really just being intentional about pulling yourself out of that firefighting mode. One of the
do you find, Andrew, let me interrupt you quickly. Do you find that is more of a problem with entrepreneurial firms led by people like me that started it? And because, when I started this thing 17 years ago, it was just me, my wife. And now it's me, my wife, and 28 other people. And sometimes it's hard to get out of putting out the fires because that's all you've ever done. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, just some point of reference. The clients we tackle are usually about the $10 million to $100 million annual revenue mark.
Gotcha.
And so oftentimes these are either the founder that's still at the helm or the first CEO with the founder still really an integral part in the company. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, it becomes second nature to those people, those entrepreneurially minded and entrenched people that really get into putting out those fires and being problem solvers. But I mean, you're absolutely right. So they really just need to make it a point to get themselves out and just think more strategically. One thing that I've suggested and seen work at a previous client of mine is just setting aside time. It seems really simplistic, but whether that's an hour a week or a couple hours a month, whatever it may be, to really just step back, get get a strategic leadership team together and really say, hey, are we going in the right direction? Do we need to reprioritize? Do we need to shift gears? And, giving everybody kind of that intentional opportunity to step back and think strategically.
But this is also, to me, the place where a firm like yours has such huge value, because if you become to the senior leadership, a part of that leadership team and a trusted advisor, then I'm not going to be bothered by you telling me where the baby's ugly. you know what I'm saying? Because I mean, that's why I would have hired you. I would have hired you to tell me, and we just went through this whole process with our company around business development, and we focused on our business development process because it was broken. And broken is probably not the right term, but it wasn't optimal. Mm-hmm. And, so we brought in somebody and we had to listen to a whole bunch of rationale about how everything we were doing was wrong. And that's probably an exaggeration. But I mean, if you're not open to that, you're not going to make any changes. But bringing in somebody like you that can actually see things differently seems to me to be a huge value.
Absolutely. And, one thing they get, the value that I sense that they really enjoy seeing is not just that outsider's view, but also I'm bringing some of those big company best practices to the forefront. I've had some really big experiences with large Fortune 500, Fortune 10 size companies, and I'm telling them, here's how they do it. And,
gotcha.
It may not fit them perfectly, but it's something that we can tweak and customize to fit their needs so that it becomes something of a game changer for them.
Gotcha. So the process thing, that's near and dear to my heart because we tackled the business development process. But over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to my team about, we have to tackle our work processes because to me, that's a place where we have room for improvement. And there are probably more. I just haven't focused on them.
Yeah, definitely. Here's what I see usually is I'll go into a company and start talking about processes, and they'll kind of chuckle as if it was a joke that they don't have any processes, or they've been trying to document those for years. And what ends up happening is a lot of these companies, they've grown to a certain size, have experienced a certain level of success, and then a lot of the people that got them to that point have left, and nobody ever documented those processes. And then so the person that fills their void is kind of left holding this bag of like, okay, what do we do? How does this work? And sure enough, you get a handful of those people end up leaving, and you've got yourself into a pretty disastrous problem. So what I'm suggesting for folks going into the new year is really get to know your processes. So I think as a leader, get to know them enough to be dangerous, but really as you talk to your team, get them focused on documenting what it is they do to execute their tasks on a daily basis. And then take some time to analyze those. Are they designed to get you to that vision that you have for the rest of the year? If not, it's time to make some changes. You may even consider putting somebody in charge, or putting a process center of excellence, so that there's a method to the madness in terms of making those process changes. They should have a view into the entire company, so that any process changes that are made, they understand the impacts downstream, and they're able to communicate those effectively. And so as a business leader, I think it's a great opportunity to really take this new year as an opportunity to hone in on those processes, get them documented, make them better, and ensure your people are capturing those for the growth of your company.
Do you advise or suggest that people, like me, because I run a company that's slightly under $10 million, to create a dashboard of processes? In our business, it's not a whole lot different. I think in your business, there are probably half a dozen, maybe 10 processes that really drive our business, whether it's project management, or whether it's business development, or whether it's, actually turning out workshops or whatnot. And so I'm just thinking about, number one, doing an inventory of the processes, and then secondly, doing sort of a granular look at what is the process. Does that make sense?
No, it sure does. I think if I could recommend something along, as we talk about these processes, every company is going to be in a different place. And so you really just want to keep it as simple as possible to encourage that documentation, that inventory. And so, as when I go into a client, I have a pretty strict methodology that I follow to ensure that we're capturing everything necessary. I try to understand the business at a high level, utilizing kind of this visualization that I put forth, and then looking at each of the different functions within the company, getting into documenting what's being done at each level, and then lastly, how are all those activities being captured. The how is really the process flow itself, and so it's a very much of a kind of waterfall, stepping stone method to capturing those. But depending on the maturity of the company, I would say, look, if it takes everybody just getting into a room and brainstorming a list of all the things that they do, and then going off and sketching those out on a piece of paper, I think that's a great starting place. Maybe even getting those into PowerPoint, or even better, get them into Visio or into Lucid Chart, or one of those kind of top end process flow capturing tools. That's what we use, and that's what I know our clients enjoy. But I think anything to just kind of take those steps to get you into that right mindset, I think is highly encourageable.
Right. Number 3, I can't wait to hear what you're saying about make a big people decision.
There's a lot loaded into this.
I know it.
People are so vital to every business, as I'm sure you're aware, and everybody really tends to know that. But what I'm suggesting here is, if you've done step 1 and 2, you've really had an opportunity to think strategically. You've had an opportunity to take that process inventory. So now it's your time to really assess: do you have the right people that are going to get you to where you need to go for the year? One of the things I suggest is just right off the bat, take that courageous leap to fire any employee that you may find cancerous to your company. I say it's courageous because we've all been there where, we understand the kind of the emotional tie-in to the people that we've worked with. But it's so hard to grow when you have these people that are spreading rumors or constantly thinking negatively or bringing everybody else down in the organization. Those are real culture killers. And
Right.
so take the time to analyze who are those people and try to move on from them. And what I've come to find is that oftentimes we overthink the situation and think, oh, we're not going to be able to get by without those people. But oftentimes you'll find that your team is actually somewhat celebratory when that cancer leaves and they're able to step up and take over or willingly taking over those tasks that one person brought forth. The other thing I mentioned too is now that you've taken that step, maybe this is an opportunity to make that strategic hire you've been dying to make, pulling in that industry leader, an expert in a certain sector that maybe can take you to the next level. Somebody that's been there, done that can then kind of help elevate your company. And next then is also focusing on the culture. I think as entrepreneurs, when we set out to start a company, we have this vision for what that company is going to look like and what that culture is going to be. And almost take a step back, take that cultural inventory, maybe talk to a handful of people on your team, ask them each, how would you define our culture? And what you find may be shocking. Maybe it's not even close to where you think it should be.
Right.
And then so taking the steps to making those changes, whether that's instilling some activities or wind down Wednesday, I think is one that's been we've utilized in the past before, where everybody kind of cools off around 4:00 on Wednesday and starts having a little bit of wine to get to know each other a little better. And then lastly here, in terms of making this big people decision, is have you really invested enough time, energy, money into training, into elevating your people that you do have there? How about have you looked at a formal HRIS system or something that can help elevate your processes internally for HR and manage those trainings that you'd be rolling out? So there's a lot that can be done here on the people side. And so hopefully these 4 or 5 that I've hit on here can really lead a drastic positive charge on your people side.
Yeah, that's there's a lot there to think about. The other thing that I find is that, and this is part of our work process, is sometimes we put the wrong people on the wrong assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our structure. So the structure dictates that this person's on this team, but we may have somebody on another team who's more capable of, say, facilitating a meeting, but they're not on that team. So because they're not on that team, they're not on that project. And so, it's sometimes it's having the right people, but put them in the wrong position.
Oh, that's absolutely true, right? And whether you think of it on a project standpoint or even for your company as a whole, I mean, that's absolutely right. Ensuring you've got the right people in the right places. Boy, that's a big one there too.
So talk a little bit about making your customers happier. I mean, that seems like mom and apple pie, but most people don't think about it very much.
I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people just kind of lose sight of that or kind of take it for granted that their customers are happy. I think oftentimes just because you have buying customers doesn't mean you have happy customers.
Right.
And so just like I said earlier, take an inventory of your process. Take a step back, get a hold of some of your top customers, contact them directly, send them an email, send them a survey if you don't want that high touch experience there. But really get to understand, why did you buy from us? How have we succeeded in meeting your expectations? How can we improve? How can we do better? Because, I mean, what it really comes down to, Jerry, as you know, is it's one thing to go out and find the customers, but it's another thing to maintain them and convert them into raving fans.
Right.
This is a great opportunity to really take inventory of that and take the steps necessary to get them to become that.
So the fifth one is about technology, which we're going to skip because we're running short on time. Besides, I want people to actually to find some way to get your guide. Is there a way that people can actually get a copy of this, like me?
Absolutely. So it'll be over on our website, louderco.com.
Okay.
That's LOUDERCO.com. We have an insights page where there's blog materials and other kind of thought leadership that you can go to and find this on there and download.
Gotcha. So louderco.com. So everybody should get these 5 tactics to make your business better in 2018. I can't I can't wait to read what you wrote. First place, I really appreciate you, Andrew, being a guest. I took 5 lessons from this discussion today, and I'm going to tell you what they are. In addition to the 5 things that you talked about here, the first thing that your discussion made me think about was how much more successful we can be if we're open-minded.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Yes.
And so often, as a business owner, or as a person who used to run a $650 million pharmaceutical company, you're not that open-minded. You get locked and loaded on your way of doing things and your process of doing things. And the truth is the mind doesn't work unless it's open. And so the more open-minded you can be, the better off you're going to be. The second thing was, my really good friend is the basketball coach at Virginia Tech named Buzz Williams, and he's one of the greatest people in the world. And he has this constant saying called #GetBetter. And, good is the enemy of best. And in the mindset that you have to continue to get better is the mindset that drives people to success. It drives people to hire consultants like you that can help them get better. The third thing is that you need to use experts. I mean, if you're going to be successful, you need experts. When I decided I wanted to change our business development thing, the first thing I did was I read a book, Predictable Revenue, and I would suggest that anybody who wants to sell more should read Predictable Revenue. And then I hired somebody who actually could teach my company how to instill that process. And so to me, I always say leave the banjo playing to the banjo player. Find somebody who knows more about it than I do and let them, drive the process, which is fundamentally the basis for your business. The fourth thing is relationships matter, because my guess is that you're getting a lot of your business because you got relationships with people, and those relationships where you have delivered for customers and made them happy and saved people $120-something million and
Absolutely.
generate $105 million in additional revenue. Those things are going to get you business, not because you're, Andrew Lauder, but because you deliver.
Correct.
And relationships are built on actions, right? And business relationships are built on successful actions. And so they really do matter. And the last thing is, what I came to this discussion already believing, but it was manifested as I listened to you talk about these 5 things, and I'm thinking about my own business, and I'm saying, boy, tiny tweaks really do create huge impact. And I need to take your 5 things and go back and get an inventory of our processes, ask myself the question about people, make sure that our customers are happy, make sure that we're creating the right culture. And we may be doing great on 3 of those things. We may not be doing great on 2 of them, but if I don't have an open mind and go back and look at them, I won't be successful. So this was incredibly informative, and I can't wait to get your 5 tactics to make your business better in 2018. Your success will actually continue to skyrocket, I'm quite sure. Thanks for being a guest on the Jerry Acuff Show. And for all you listeners, make sure that you go to louderco.com, LOUDERCO.com, and actually get Andrew's 5 tactics to make your business better in 2018. Make sure you have an open mind. Make sure you have a mindset to get better, whether you are as an individual or whether you are as a company. And use experts. You want to know something? Ask somebody who's already done it. Ask somebody who has the kind of wisdom that Andrew has. Understand that the more you deliver for people, the more those relationships can help you be successful in business, and look for small things to create big impact. And if you do those things, you'll always be incredible.
Wonderful, Jerry. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a great pleasure of mine.
Thanks, Andrew. It's great having you.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.